Hey guys, Kate here from Remote Minecart, and welcome to a triple reaction video of some Diamonbolt videos. So, here we go.
Things that fill me with indescribable joy.
We all have that.
Things that invoke both emotion and happiness.
Transformers Animated.
We all have particular things like
Transformers Prime. Love those shows. Despite the fact I'm not really that much of a Transformers fan, I do like those shows. And also my mom is a huge Transformers fan, so yeah.
Transformers Prime.
Yes.
Transformers Prime is not only my favorite Transformers show in existence, but also one of my favorite cartoons ever. The whole show just seems like a love letter to Transformers fans.
True.
With intense action, hilarious humor.
I will always remember that moment in the last episode where like Bumblebee gets his voice back. That scene was so cool. Oh my
Transformers
gosh.
fandom has decided that Prime is one of the greatest Transformers shows in existence, and while there are those
That's
that
because
disagree,
it is.
Transformers Prime is highly regarded as
okay,
one of the
maybe
best
not God
Transformers
tier,
shows
but it is
to date.
good.
In this video, I'm going to delve a little bit into why I think that is. Starting with...
Okay.
It felt like a series that actually gave a shit about being a good show. It wasn't a show blatantly throwing toys in your face, and it wasn't a show that kept dumbing down everything for the sake of getting the thumbs up from Cartoon Network.
Let's just be glad that it was never on Cartoon Network and it was on a Hub and Netflix. I'm actually kind of curious if Hub still exists. And it's raining heavily outside right now, so yeah.
Transformers Prime didn't hold anything back, and it was fantastic. You got blood, violence, and even human death. Something that no
one
other
actually surprised me.
cartoon has dared show before. Prime adopted a darker tone than most Transformers shows before it, taking inspiration from the popularity.
Funnily enough, Transformers.
And not shying away from
it was the 2007 movie and Transformers Prime that introduced me to Transformers, and oh wow, whoa. So sorry, just. Those were some dark clouds. Oh man, but so. Yeah, I remember how dark this show got. Didn't disturb me.
Humor, Prime overall had a more mature tone than shows before it. Immediately, Prime sets the scene by killing off a supposed main character in Cliffjumper. It right off the bat let you know what kind of show you were in for, and it maintained that level of maturity and awesomeness throughout. It felt like the perfect blend between the classic Transformers formula and the mature themes and violence of the movies, allowing it to be a great starting point for those coming from the films to get into Transformers.
Fair enough.
It's familiar enough for both movie fans and fans of the original, and blends the two styles together to make something really special. It actually killed off characters. When characters died, they stayed dead. Well, except for Optimus, Megatron, and Bumblebee, but I'm sure we all know why that is. It had enough humor to appeal to younger viewers, and enough violence and plot to keep older audiences engaged. It doesn't continually pull punches and pretend everyone's okay after everything that happens. It shows that actions do have consequences, and bad things do happen to the good guys.
To be honest, there really should be more kids shows like this. Like, I'm not saying all kids shows should be dark, but like, all kids shows should take notes from this to know what they do. Like, to know how to make a really good kids show. Especially since, again, like, kids need to learn that even bad things can happen to the heroes. Like, the mindset of, oh, nothing bad ever happens to the heroes. Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, eventually something bad is going to happen to the hero. If you've seen Infinity War, then you may know that.
But at the same time, Prime was done in a way that still made it feel like an enjoyable kid show, instead of the bloodbath that Transformers is now so closely attributed to. Prime didn't resurrect Dreadwing after he was shot through the freaking chest. Cliffjumper actually died tragically, being mutated by the Dark Energon instead of magically revived by it. And Breakdown, well, Breakdown's fate was just cruel.
Okay, hold on. Okay, look. To be honest, like, everyone has this part of their brain when, like, seeing stuff like this. Because, like, it was a living thing that kind of resembled, like, a human, I guess. I forgot what it was called. Dang it. Train of thought. I lost my train of thought. Great. But so, this, kind of creepy. Just saying. Especially since, you know, children would have watched this.
I recall the very first time I saw the designs for the cast way back in 2010, and recall hating them. I genuinely hated them. That's certainly not the same nowadays, though.
Oh, dear lord.
I thought they looked too skeletal and freakish, more alien than robot, more human.
Okay, listen. I am I'm pretty sure this right here, I'm pretty sure she is the reason why a few people fell in love with robots. Actually, I'm pretty sure she might be the reason why, like, some of the FNAF fans now think animatronics are attractive. I know I just made a random connection that makes no sense, but still, just saying, like, I'm pretty sure this woman is the reason why some people thought, you know what, I'd rather date a robot instead.
Annoyed the machine. The Prime designs
Especially
are very
since
different from how the characters have been in the past.
I thought she was hot back then.
Better for it. They look fantastic, and the animation of Prime brings them to life fantastically.
True.
Whether you love it or hate it, it's undeniable that Prime's animation is gorgeous compared to this shit. It was expensive, it looked like it required a lot of work to create, and all that work paid off. Transformers Prime doesn't come out as a product created only to make Hasbro revenue from toys. It's a show that cares about its characters and the story it was trying to tell. Can I just gush over the fights in this show? Fantastically choreographed, thrilling and intense, and overall a joy to watch. Optimus versus
they're pretty good.
Dreadwing versus Optimus, Soundwave versus Wheeljack, the Wreckers versus Predaking, Magnus versus Megatron. It was so cool. These are the fights that Transformers fans have craved, not ones with excessive amounts of bullets that do about as much damage as hate comments, or ones where it's impossible to tell what the hell is going on as a mess of black and red metal mate with one another. Up close and personal battles that were just as brutal as they were exciting. If anything, Prime does a magnificent job on the battle scenes, more so than any other Transformers.
I might take notes from these battle scenes.
It was a show that centered on
oh yeah, I remember that show. So I might take notes from these battle scenes if I ever want to do any type of animation one day.
It gave Transformers fans everything they wanted. If anything, serving as a modern Beast Wars, what with the small but interesting cast of characters.
Oh yes, I remember watching Beast Wars on Netflix.
And of course, the expensive act for Optimus to do it. And
True.
then came Predacons Rising, which I personally felt was the perfect ending to the series.
True.
An adventure set entirely on Cybertron, where Unicron resurrects Megatron, Bumblebee takes command of the Autobots, and Knockout joins the Autobots, and there are more Predacons, and it's so good. Megatron ending the Decepticon cause felt like such a great finale.
Yeah, this video will have a lot of editing, so if there's some weird cuts, I'm sorry.
Felt like one of the only times his death
Okay, that looks like a cool screensaver.
And they never brought him back. Oh, god damn it. Regardless of Robots in Disguise's massacre of Prime's legacy, I absolutely loved Prime as a whole, and felt that the ending was a great way to wrap the series up without leaving too many plot holes open. Too many, I said. The characters
okay, Robots in Disguise, it wasn't that bad,
if I'm
but
going to be completely
there is better.
100% entirely honest, Optimus Prime's a bit of a boring character.
Now, sir, this is the opinion police.
Wait, not again. I love Optimus. Don't get me wrong.
That's most Twitter.
Most interesting character out there.
Twitter's
honest,
crawling with
I kinda
opinion
like that.
polices.
The way Prime portrays Optimus is perfect. He's portrayed as this flawless and infinitely wise being that all of the other characters in the show look up to. He's a leader and an inspiration. And not to discredit Gary Chalk or David Kay, but Peter Cullen being Optimus Prime is just...
Oh god.
His usual one-dimensionness, Prime was shown to be more than meets the eye in Prime. He was given almost a father figure-like role, being seen as a kind and caring leader who genuinely cared about each of his Autobots. And it was so cool seeing his relationship with each of his team members. It was nice to see such a warm and likable Optimus, returning him to the core personality type that made him so lovable in the first place, instead of the psychopathic and remorseless killer the Prime from the movies has become famous for. One of the
fair enough.
Optimus losing his memories and reverting to his Orion Pax state, which is one of the best storylines in the whole show, as it sees a naive and innocent Optimus working alongside Megatron, whom he still believes to be his friend. It's always interesting seeing heroes and villains working together, and it works extremely well in Transformers, especially because of the dynamic the two have.
I actually like seeing heroes and villains work together. Like, I get they're supposed to be fighting, like, possibly fighting each other or against each other, but I like it when, like, the hero and villain have to team up, especially if they have to team up to take down someone who's even worse. I really like that.
In this show. And Prime gives us plenty of scenes of Megatron and Optimus working together, though in this arc we really got to see what it was like for Megs and Prime to be friends. It was an incredibly interesting storyline, where we really got to see what these characters were like before the war. Previously established characters who have just been there became interesting, and some of my favourite Transformers characters ever. Ratchet, Smokescreen, even RC. It portrayed the characters pretty faithfully, and the changes they made to the characters weren't bad or blatantly obvious. Prime didn't take the same risks like Animated, but it worked out for the better, choosing to expand upon already interesting character aspects instead of rewriting characters entirely. I mean, I can't say I like the Mute Bumblebee all that much, but if we have
he's okay.
I'd much rather take the Prime version over any other version. Now, I can't exactly claim to be an expert when it comes to voice acting and dialogue. Sonic, you dead meat! When I think the work in Prime was fantastic. The Autobots especially, like Bumblebee's voice acting was amazing. I think Prime's greatest accomplishment is actually making Ratchet an interesting character. We all know how badass Ratchet can be, and yet he's never had the chance to shine. Prime finally gives him this chance, both to be a badass and comic relief.
Oh, kid, I needed that!
The Wheeljack in Prime is most likely the biggest difference between Prime and previously established material, though it worked out for the better. This Wheeljack is one of my favorite Wheeljacks ever. I think I like him even more than the original one. I mean, he was certainly better than this piece of shit. His relationship with Bolt was interesting and felt genuine. That's one of the best parts about this show. It conveyed fantastically the relationships each of the bots had with one another, and humanized them to the point of making them feel genuine. The Decepticons were just as compelling as the Autobot protagonist, which is the way it should be. Very few Transformers shows have managed to have the combatants of both sides of the Cybertronian conflict interesting, and Prime is the only Transformers show where I actually like the Decepticons more. The show dedicated ample time to
Starscream is one of my favorite characters.
As opposed to just, I'm evil, we're gonna do evil things because we're evil. The Prime Starscream is my favorite Starscream of all time. His aspects of cowardice from his original G1 self are amplified to amazing effect, and he becomes such a compelling and hilarious character. And don't even get me started on Soundwave. I have my bias, considering Soundwave is, and probably always will be, one of my favorite Transformers characters in existence, but the way Prime portrayed him was just perfect. Soundwave says 4 words throughout the whole show, doesn't even have a face, and yet still comes out as one of the most memorable characters in the whole series. He was silent and terrifying, and it was very rare in this show for him to lose a battle. His character is one of my favorites in Prime, and he has some of the best scenes in the show, especially his ass-whooping of Arachnid and his duel with Wheeljack. Seriously, that scene where Soundwave beats the shit out of the treacherous Arachnid was one of the best in the show. I'm gonna take over the Decepticons! Haha, no. Soundwave just doesn't care. It's both hilarious and terrifying. This is how you make a character cool without causing them
to be honest, the visor kind of like the... Wait, hold on.
Was just
Hold on.
Terrifying. Wheeljack. Seriously, that scene where Soundwave beats the shit out of the treacherous Arachnid was one of the best in the show. I'm gonna take over the Decepticons!
Okay, yeah, the visor part of the head kind of looked... It kind of resembles... The visor part of the head kind of resembles the visor of Samus's helmet. Kind of. And that's just me saying that.
No.
Maybe I'm not the only one.
Just doesn't care.
Hopefully.
It's both hilarious and terrifying. This is how you make a character cool without causing them to appear overly edgy. And, Knockout was just...
juicy.
Knockout is the second sex...
Pick up the Batman
come on!
and be the superhero in your family tonight.
Pizza.
I was afraid to put the vape down. That's where I started to lose who I was.
Voice I've ever heard in a cartoon.
Oh.
Take me now, you goddamn beautiful! Each of the Autobots and Decepticons had distinct and individual personalities.
Diamond, no!
You know, that thing the Michael Bay movies hate so much. And they were brought to life by the gorgeous animation and fluid voice work. Each one of the characters in this show are likable and memorable. Most of the characters in this show are. The human characters were fine. They're not quite Sari levels of having a genuine reason to be there, but they're not nearly as annoying as some human Transformers characters. Jack, Miko, and Raph were fine. Yes, even Miko. They weren't overly annoying. I'll agree to disagree on Miko. They didn't constantly take center stage and so obscure the actual Transformers like some other Transformers media, and overall I actually quite like them. You really got to feel and care for the human characters in Prime. I didn't feel that the show was too forceful with them, unlike a lot of Transformers shows are, and their relationships with their respective bots was really cute and nice to see. I know this is an unpopular opinion because many didn't like the human characters in Prime, but if I'm gonna be honest,
they're
I'd take these guys over this piece of shit any day. And of course, Agent f***ing Fowler, the best Transformers character in existence. Agent Fowler was a seriously cool character. Almost every single scene he was in was fantastic or incredibly badass. He stands up to Optimus Prime, withstood torture from Starscream, and this also.
I can, that's cheeseburger. I'm sorry. What?
The inevitable human anti-Transformer organization, Mech, is in my opinion one of the least sucky human villains in a Transformers show. I mean, they all suck and are always completely unnecessary, but I thought Mech was on occasion rather formidable, and thoroughly enjoyed the events surrounding Breakdown's demise, and subsequent resurrection and death. They weren't that bad as opposed to, say, previous attempts at the same thing. Much like Beast Machines, Prime found a way to give the Autobots something to fight without having to constantly come up with new characters, and this was done through drones. The Vehicons pretty much account for the lack of laziness in every other aspect of the show. I can understand why these things show up so often, considering it would be easy for the animators to copy and paste Steve everywhere. But the show realized this, and as time went on, Vehicons served less as cannon fodder and more as comic relief. Plus, I think we all deep down love seeing the Autobots kill things over and over in violent ways. Come on, who doesn't? Prime had plenty of awesome story arcs, many of which are some of my favourite stories ever told in the entire Transformers series. Some of my favourite moments apparently shared by a lot of you include the aforementioned Orion Pax arc, seeing Optimus and Megatron fight side by side in One Shall Rise, the fantastic relic hunt that spans several episodes, the two-part Operation Bumblebee arc that showed how much B valued his alt mode and the lengths he would go to restore it, and anything involving Knockout and Starscream, just to name a few.
Though I must confess, I have always admired your lustrous finish.
Seriously, those two had the best chemistry in the entire show.
Why haven't they kissed already? Come on.
Romance as good as those two. And let's be honest, we all leapt for joy when Soundwave spoke.
Soundwave superior, Autobots inferior.
Prime ensures that it contains enough.
One day I will make a video with just auto-tune.
Most of the jokes in the show were pretty solid. Particularly the episode where Ratchet gets jacked up on synthetic energon and becomes the best thing in the Transformers franchise ever. Oh, and Starscream and his little scooter. Prime had its fair share of plot resolutions utilizing overused stereotypes, but a lot of the time it broke the mold. The good guys in Prime didn't always win, and Megatron had plenty of advancements and victories in Prime, which once again showed that stakes were actually present in Prime. The episode where Prime lays dying in the destroyed Autobot base was shocking and terrifying. Seeing Megatron as an actually competent and threatening villain was refreshing, as we're all used to the Megatron that does nothing but call for a retreat. Optimus doesn't always win in Prime. In fact, several times it's shown that Megatron gets incredibly close to victory. It's brutal and genuinely shocking, allowing the villains in the show to actually come off as threatening. And it's what made a lot of Prime's storylines so unique, engaging, and refreshing. The biggest problem and the biggest weakness of Prime is that it wasn't a kid's show. In contrast to its successor, which was a huge step down, Prime was expensive and didn't cater to the intended audience Hasbro usually focuses on. So I guess they figured they could earn more for less, clearly deciding to go the lazy route when following on from the show. And because of that, we now have this shit. More on that in another video. I hate you, you piece of— Though many may perceive me as a critical or negative person, I'm actually not. I just talk about stuff I hate more than stuff I like, and this is because I'm a lot more critical and analytical when it comes to discussing something I don't like, as I'm able to justify—
I see that he has Gary's mod unturned on his computer.
Transformers Prime, I just switch off. I'm oblivious to all the flaws this show has, and whenever I conjure up an image of it in my mind, I can't think of any imperfections. Prime to me doesn't have any glaring errors that plague most Transformers shows. Wait. This show has, and whenever I conjure up an image of it in my mind, I can't think of any imperfections. Prime to me doesn't have any
consistent animation errors and nonsensical plot. Dinobot dies. The Maximals give me PTSD. I mean, not me, but things can scare people, I guess. Constant dubbing and animation errors. Transformer John. What the fuck? And Transformers Cybertron. Too British. Yeah, I mean, there is no such thing as too British, so, there's that.
Glaring errors that plague most Transformers shows, and for that I find it very hard to critique. I know it isn't perfect, but my infatuation with it blocks me from properly realizing any major issues it has. I genuinely cannot think of anything wrong with it. I mean, maybe it's the fact that they never explain why Raph can understand Bumblebee, or the obvious fact that most of the budget went into the eyebrow animations. It's obvious that some plot lines were rushed and character deaths were rather
surprising.
Makeshift. But if I'm being entirely honest, I think they did well considering the constant issues they faced behind the scenes. It didn't feel overly long or dragged out. I think Prime was the perfect length, and in my opinion had a fantastic ending. Very few shows actually end in a satisfying way, but Prime nailed it. And though yes, I would have loved for the show to continue, reading up on some of the ideas planned for the 4th season kind of makes me feel glad it was cancelled. Like, what the hell? Cowboys?
Wait. Drop plans include a season 3 set mostly of Cybertron with Maximals and Predacons in a Wild West setup, and a idea for pirates in season 4. In turn, this also derailed plans for a massive Avengers-style crossover project for Hasbro properties, launching off the end of Prime called Unit E, which began as spoilers. Don't really care for that because, you know.
Indescribable joy. Certain things that invoke both emotion and... We're covering Transformers Animated. Transformers Animated, at the time of its release, was an incredibly controversial and widely debated Transformers show. Fast forward 10 years later, and Animated is considered one of the best Transformers shows, and for good reason. Though initially appearing as a show significantly dumbed down for kids, Animated proved itself to be one of the better Transformers shows, with a surprisingly eccentric and brilliantly written plot, likable and appealing characters, and overall it was just fun. I have a pretty significant amount of nostalgia for this show, and no matter how many times I watch it, I will always feel joy when I sit down to watch an episode. So in this video, I'm going to delve a little bit into why Transformers Animated is as revered as it is. Starting with...
Oh my god.
Picking it up.
Before I start gushing over all of the characters and stories, I feel I should start by talking about how massively different Animated is when compared to every Transformers show before it. Animated took some massive risks, unlike this series had ever seen. The first and most obvious change is the animation that was the deciding factor for many when judging this show. However, the Teen Titans and Omniverse animation style becomes one of the show's greatest aspects, as it easily accommodates for the massive cast of characters, allows for expressive and emotive facial expressions, and results in the dynamic and smooth fight scenes. Although, one nitpick I do have with the art style is the chins. It's impossible to not talk about it, seriously.
Fair enough.
Whose idea was this? 90% of Sentinel Prime's character is a chin. Besides the animation style, Animated completely reinvented the usual Transformers formula.
Apparently Sentinel Prime is a complete asshole, which, from seeing this, yeah, I agree.
Is now an elderly and grumpy war veteran. Prowl is a silent but deadly
British,
ninja bot, and Bumblebee is... well, Bumblebee is still Bumblebee, just... louder. Ultra Magnus is the leader of the Autobots in this show, not Optimus, and the series is set in a post-war setting, with the Autobots winning the war and having banished the cons off the planet. They were all very rapid changes to what we were used to, and initially they caught me a little off guard. But as time has passed, I've come to appreciate just how much they managed to make this different formula work. It was clear there was a lot of effort put into building this world, and the changes don't ever come off as trying to make the characters more appealing for children. Animated is a perfect blend of a new take on the Transformers formula, mixed in with a ton of references to previous works to allow those new to...
And if I want to be perfectly honest, I prefer the voice Optimus has in this show than the usual voice he has. Which, I already feel like I'm probably going to get crucified just by saying that. Please don't hate me, that's my opinion. But so, to be honest, his regular voice is pretty badass though, but still, I just prefer this voice more.
The series to ease into it reasonably well. The writers clearly did their research, because Animated arguably has the most Transformers references in it out of every TF show, housing returning characters, a hell of a lot of cameos, and familiar artifacts and weapons. The creators took a huge gamble with Animated, and initially there was certainly an outcry when it was announced. And to be honest, I can't blame anyone for initially being skeptical of the show. At first glance, Animated does appear to be a worse version of Robots in Disguise, which we all know isn't possible. But the show reveals itself to be a complex and interesting mix of humor.
Seriously, is that Crimson Chin as a Transformer?
There are still plenty of people who claim that Animated is the worst thing that has ever happened to the franchise. Man, have I had fun dealing with those comments. But overall, Animated has proved itself to be one of the better Transformers cartoons. Okay, now we can get to the gushing. Despite coming off as a stupid cartoon for babies for many people, Transformers Animated has some of the coolest, darkest, and most interesting stories in the entire Transformers series.
True.
And the show has many memorable twists and turns in the narrative. Every reference is intentional. Each bit of foreshadowing is subtle yet right in your face. The storytelling is ingeniously written and animated, and the show continued to surprise me as it went on with how fantastically written the stories were. One of my favorite reveals in the show is the Autobots' ship being Omega Supreme. That was absolutely amazing. And of course, everything to do with Sari's big reveal. But we'll get to that. Animated proved time and time again that despite its colourful exterior, it wasn't going to shy away from telling a mature and serious story. And while I don't think that everything needs to be dark and mature, Animated managed to incorporate these themes into the show very well without making it seem sudden, and it certainly did add to the show's heavy emphasis on storytelling. Animated is a more superhero show than anything, spending the majority of its first season pulling punches in terms of what was to come. A majority of the Autobots' initial adversaries are human villains, which is something I have always hated in
shit, I
Transformers.
swear.
I'm looking at you, Circuit Breaker, you piece of shit! It made for some entertaining episodes, and I feel it could have been a lot worse. I admit the human bad guys weren't terrible.
Except for the headmaster.
Yes! I am so...
I enjoyed them for what they were worth, and they did drive home that superhero theme the show originally had. However, what this did do for Animated was make the times the Decepticons actually did show up even more interesting. As time went on and the show progressed, the Decepticons soon became the usual villains instead of some random human villain, so thankfully Professor Princess didn't stick around for long. Why does this exist? Though Season 1 and Season 2 were fairly lighthearted, Season 3 was where shit hit the fan. This change wasn't jarring, however. It was for the better. A lot of the newer characters in the show were provided with more depth because of it, and it all led up to the spectacular series finale, which is among my favourite Transformers moments ever. Season 3 had some of the series highlights for me.
There was supposed to be a Season 4, but
character Wasp. Wasp's story was brilliant yet tragic.
Never happened.
He was the bot mistaken for the Decepticon trader in the episode Auto Boot Camp.
Oh.
One of the best episodes in the whole series. And the remainder of the series sees his downward spiral into madness. Or Waspinatedness, which is just essentially the same thing. The reveal of Long Armor Shockwave was absolutely brilliant. I know it was pretty obvious in the episode that Wasp was just a red herring. Having Long Armor Shockwave was amazing. And Shockwave's continued exploits were very much shocking. Blur's demise and the attempted assassination of Ultra Magnus very much took me by surprise. But there were fantastic twists in the narrative. This was what pretty much shushed anyone still claiming Animated was only for babies. These fights in Animated were usually condensed for the sake of keeping the focus on the characters, but when the show let loose, holy crap, it was spectacular. The battle between Megatron and the Autobots in the Megatron Rising arc was friggin' amazing. I never thought they would be able to have such an amazing fight with this animation style, but once again, Animated managed to prove me wrong. Animated also eliminates the overused and tiresome concept of the Autobots having to hide themselves from humans, instead having them pose as superheroes for the city of Detroit. A Detroit of the future, where robots and machines are commonplace.
Okay, even for fantasy, I feel like that's a bit too unrealistic. Just saying. Maybe Detroit might look like that in the future. Or maybe it just might look like a giant wasteland. So, yeah.
This allows for the Autobots to not stand out as much, as well as making some of the inventions in the series seem a little bit more plausible. It was an interesting setting, having a Transformers show set
I
in the
wouldn't be
future,
surprised if
further
Transformers were
allowed Animated to stand out
possible to
opposed
be
the
made
previous
in the
entries
future.
even more. Animated has one of the most compelling storylines of any Transformers show, and by the end of the show you'll be incredibly invested in the plot, and, of course, the... Animated keeps its main Autobot cast small but likable, and provides ample time properly fleshing out and developing all 5 of them. We get a glimpse into their backstories, and get to understand them as characters. We get to see Ratchet's surprisingly dark experiences during the Cybertronian War, and his tragic history with Lockdown. We get to see Prowl's failure to become a cyber ninja and attempt to redeem himself, and we see Bumblebee and Bulkhead's training as cadets back on Cybertron and how they ended up as space bridge mechanics. Animated gives depth to these characters, and probably explains the reason they are the way they are. Prowl especially, as we watch him go from an arrogant loner to one who finally masters what he set out to do. Prowl arguably underwent the most character development throughout the show, and my younger self would tell you that he was my favourite character. He was badass, yet occasionally adorable, and we got to watch him warm up to the
he is very
concluding
badass.
with his tragic yet fitting sacrifice in the show's finale. The change to Optimus's character was certainly a large one, but Animated comes off as better for it. It very much assists in the character development area to have the 5 protagonists start out as nothing but space bridge repair bots, only to have them come to Earth and become superheroes. We get to see Prime develop as a leader, and it made him a more grounded and relatable character.
Optimus Prime with a guitar, why not?
Cryptic Optimus Prime. This was a flawed and inexperienced Optimus who has to overcome plenty of challenges throughout Animated. It was a refreshing change, and though a far cry from the usual character, it was a welcome one. The other characters are awesome too, and the changes made to them work splendidly well. Animated has my favourite Bumblebee ever. I love him so much. Many will disagree with me on this, but they managed to actually make him energetic and cocky without causing him to be overly annoying. I know, I didn't think it was possible either. This is how you get a character. Pay attention, everyone else ever. I rooted for him, I wanted to see more of him, and I laughed at plenty of his quips. He wasn't a character that made me want to put a power drill in my ears. He was genuinely lovable, and his relationships with both Sari and Bulkhead were believable and adorable. Each of the Autobots transformed into rescue vehicles, and the show focused on the theme of them working together. We watched them become strong, become inspirations, become heroes. Man, they were pretty much the rescue bots before rescue bots. The Autobots had
I remember rescue
and watching
bots.
them develop from strangers to close friends was awesome. Animated isn't necessarily subtle with its character development. Human cast hang around needlessly.
Wait. Why does he look like Gregory? Why does this kid look like Gregory? I just thought I'd point that out. I don't know why. I don't know why he looks. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought that, but oh my! Now I think about it. As stupid as that would be, a FNAF and Transformers crossover, as stupid as that sounds, would be so awesome, and stupid and funny and seriously, like, oh my gosh! It also just reminds me that like, Hasbro should have the Funko license, or not the Funko license, the FNAF license, because I feel like not only they could make better figures, but I don't know, I just feel like Hasbro would probably do a better job with the FNAF license. I know that's never going to happen, but still, oh my god. But obviously, again, they, like, god, it's just so stupid, but I love it. I don't know how, but I've managed to talk about FNAF in a frickin' Transformers video twice. Oh man.
She received an Allspark key in the second episode, which serves as her excuse to be continuously involved in the plot, and I thought it was a clever way of doing so. This key allowed her to heal the Autobots whenever they were injured, but this wasn't her only reason for being in the show. Sari was displayed numerous times as being able to handle herself without the Autobots, such as an episode where she mopped the floor with the Constructicons. But what turned Sari from good to amazing for me was the massive plot twist at the end of the second season. I'm giving anyone who doesn't know a chance to exit the video and go watch Animated now if you haven't already, because I assure you the show is a hell of a lot better if you experience it for yourself. No? Alright. Sari is revealed to be a Cybertronian protoform, and her growth both metaphorically and literally was very well done, and it also allowed her to actually be involved in fights, resulting in her having an even more active role in the plot. Sari was one of the most brilliantly written human characters. Can I say human? Yeah, you get the idea. In a Transformers show. And it was such a weird feeling for me to actually be wanting to see more of a character who wasn't a Transformer. Moving on to the Decepticons, Animated does a fantastic job establishing the Decepticons as genuine threats, and each one was shown as more than capable of taking down the entire Autobot team. I love how a majority of them tower over the Autobots. It made each of them seem just that much more dangerous. Each of the Decepticons were so different from one another, and though not quite as charismatic as the ones in Prime, the best part of the animated Decepticons is that they always seem like a threat to the Autobots. As the show makes very clear, the Decepticons are warriors and the main Autobot cast is not, meaning that each of the Decepticons can very much hold their own. This is what makes the Autobots' victory just that much more triumphant. They're also each much more than just a problem for the Autobots to take down. Each Decepticon was distinct and charismatic, and all of them were very likable. Blitzwing and Lugnut served as the show's inevitable silly Decepticon duo, in the footsteps of Demolisher and Cyclonus, but the difference is that they're actually good. Lugnut's undying dedication to the Decepticon cause was hilarious, as was Blitzwing struggling to put up with his partner's reckless demeanor. Blitzwing himself was a character I just didn't find myself liking very much, but thankfully he has 3 different personalities along with his 3 faces to choose from, so we spent less time with his crappier personality. Lockdown was Animated's first original character, and he has since become a staple in the franchise. He was incredibly
Kiss fan, maybe?
and I recall my younger self being terrified of the fact that he would collect the Autobots as mods. He and Ratchet's history was an intriguing plot point, and he made for an all-round sinister villain. The usual throwaway characters had surprising depth as well, including Black Arachnia, who we get to see was once the Autobot Elita 1, and was close with Sentinel Prime and Optimus. Animated's reimagining of Soundwave was cool too, and the episodes he appeared in were a treat, even though his plot thread was left inconclusive by the end of the show. Now, I know I said this was the best Megatron, and that's still true, because this is the bestest Megatron.
Fair enough.
The Megatron in Animated is chilling, violent, eerily intelligent and competent, and ridiculously powerful. It was a little irritating to have him spend an entire season sitting idly as a head, but it showed how cunning he was to manipulate Professor Sumdac to get himself out of his predicament, pulling the strings behind most of the villains the Autobots had to fight. This all built up towards the fantastic Megatron Rising 2-parter. The show spent a lot of time stirring up hype for his return. And
he would later beat the ever-living shit out of Starscream later.
The of the Autobots and execution of Starscream were fantastic and such shocking and exciting scenes.
Also,
on that, this Megatron did the one thing every other Megatron is too stupid to do. Kill Starscream. Unfortunately for him, the Starscream in this show didn't go down easily. Tom Kenny as Starscream was a perfect cast.
Wait, that was Tom Kenny? Oh my... What? I didn't know that! Wow. So, that means Tom Kenny has voiced SpongeBob, the Ice King, Spyro, and Starscream. Who else is he going to voice? Like... Who's next? Is there going to be like a cartoon for Bendy and the Ink Machine and he'll voice Bendy? Actually, to be honest, I wouldn't mind that, so... But still, wow. Interesting.
Choice, as it causes Starscream to become both a cunning and hilarious villain. And I personally think that Animated does the whole immortal Starscream thing way better than G1. It leads to the hilarious scenes of him constantly dying, and the Allspark piece keeping him alive felt like a much more reasonable explanation for his invulnerability, and also leads to his tragic yet satisfying demise in the finale of the show. Overall, Animated has one of the most memorable and lovable casts in a Transformers show, and I found myself laughing when they laughed.
Too bad there's no season 4.
Grieving the one. Come on, a Shattered Glass episode? Damn you, Cartoon Network! Still, if we did have a season 4 of Animated, we may not have had Prime. So... Plus, the ending we did get for Animated was fantastic. It was conclusive enough to be satisfying, and featured one of the most epic battles in the series. You felt the Autobots' triumph when they came out on top, and though I was sad to see the show go, I was ecstatic to see that shot of the Autobots on Cybertron, with Optimus proudly wearing the Allspark fragments around his neck, with the Decepticons captured once and for all. It was glorious. God, I love this show. While I have to say I do prefer Prime,
but only by a very little tiny bit.
If I had to say what one I'd rather sit down and watch for fun, it'd be Animated. Though Animated has long since concluded, its legacy lives on. Hell, the Animated Expanded Universe is gigantic. Pretty much any Transformers character you can think of has...
Wait. That face. What is that? Why does that guy look like the nostalgia critic? Why does the hat, like the on top of the head, kind of looks like the hat of the nostalgia? Why am I getting? What is me? What is me? that freaking face. The fucking face.
Character you can think of has an animated incarnation. I mean, have you seen Skybite? Fans and official material continue to reference it, and earlier this year, an official comic continuation of Animated was released. Quite frankly, Animated may be gone, but it is far from forgotten. Animated had essentially everything going against it, but managed to flip almost everyone's initial...
Okay, here we go.
Quarantine certainly did a number on a lot of people,
yes, Hank?
included, because it apparently decided to suddenly reignite my passion for buying Transformers toys, which, let me tell you, has been an absolute wonder on my wallet.
I definitely picked a good time for it too, because Transformers has been absolutely crushing it with the new War for...
Yeah, there are also different types of collectors who can agree with you. Collectors of Power Rangers, collectors of Star Wars, collectors of Super Sentai... Basically, any collector of a series or franchise that has a bunch of stuff come out, yeah, they can relate with this, so, yeah.
Cybertron trilogy,
which has gotta be some of Hasbro's best work. And as much as that makes this video sound like a paid endorsement, you gotta trust me here. If this video was an ad, then I would not be allowed to complain as much as I'm about to. This whole thing started for me when I decided to rewatch the Bumblebee movie one day, and I thought it would be a great idea to buy the Blitzwing and Bumblebee Studio Series figures so I could recreate their fight scene from the movie. And then it all kind of just spiraled out of control from there.
And it certainly didn't help that I also watched the War for Cybertron shows, which, while not very good, I definitely remember all I could think about while watching was, man, it'd be cool to have toys of these guys.
I don't know what kind of subliminal messaging shit Hasbro is pulling here, but it is working.
What the fuck? When did I buy this? I used to...
Okay, but besides what was just shown, yeah, I'm pretty sure like Hasbro has mastered the ability to have some sort of subliminal messaging in their movies and shows that basically say, buy our stuff, buy our stuff. I really wish I could do that type of things, but with companies it would be like, sponsor me, sponsor me. Oh, man.
I collect TF toys a lot when I was younger, mostly through birthday presents because of the pretty ridiculous prizes at the time. God, if only I knew. And I suppose I picked a good time.
Yeah, that's something that Super Sentai fans can relate, especially as someone who wants to get a bunch of like Super Sentai stuff, specifically Mini-Pla, like the amount of the prices most Mini-Plas go for, especially on eBay. Oh my god, it is insane. It is just crazy. And sadly, you can't go for like the cheaper option on Toku Collectibles because they're out of stock. And oh my god, it annoys me to every inch of my body. It's so annoying.
Since it was during Combiner Wars, where everything was just the same thing again. It was a good 5 or so years of having money. So just to give you a rundown on the current trilogy, which all share the same aesthetics and engineering, it all started in 2018 with the Siege line, which focused on the Cybertronian modes of select Autobots and Decepticons, which was then succeeded 2 years later by Earthrise, which, as you can imagine, focused instead on their Earth modes, which look a bit more familiar to what we're used to. And then finally concluded this year with Kingdom, which focused on their Earth modes again, and Monkey. Getting back into it has meant I've had to relearn all the jargon and whatever the fuck Benib means. I've also learned that every Transformers line has their own size class, which Hasbro seems to make up all over again with each new series. Right now though, we've got Micro and Battle Masters, which solely exist just to decorate store shelves, Core Class.
No. Hey, I see that. I see that. Listen, if you like that, that's fine, but don't force me to look at it.
Which, if it's not obvious, I don't own. Deluxe Class, Voyager Class, Leader Class, and Commander Class. And Titan Class.
Whoa.
It's why I'm eternally grateful that the Masterpiece line does absolutely nothing for me, because Jesus fucking Christ. It all seems like a pretty straightforward size pattern if you ask me, but apparently Hasbro doesn't agree, because then you've got... Because then you've got examples like Deluxe Class Earthrise Cliffjumper, who is literally half the size of his wave mates, but he sure as hell costs the same. Another example, hold on a minute, is Studio Series 86 Voyager Class Hot Rod, who is the same size as all of the other Deluxes, but all because they chucked a couple of accessories in there, he's now $45. What the fuck? This...
I mean, how else do you think Hasbro is going to make money?
This is all because of their new focus on cartoon accurate scaling, which I must admit for the most part I have very much appreciated. Mostly.
Huh. $99 for an action figure that is slightly taller than another one. Yeah, that's Hasbro, alright.
But it essentially means these size classes don't actually mean anything besides the price point. Wonderful. And to anyone who wants Studio Series Devastator, I'm sorry.
Boobies.
One of the earliest things you have to accept when it comes to Transformers toys is that basically half of them are just the same thing again. Oh my god, it's so fucking cool. Whoever came up with the idea of repainted toys being separate characters is either a complete genius or just incorrigibly evil.
Okay, so he's a clone of Soundwave created by Shockwave, who is now pirate captain fighting for neither
side. Oh, that's so
cool. It's a little more on the other side.
The literal second Transformers hit the store shelves, the bigwigs up at Hasbro realized they could just release the same thing again but red, and we'd all buy it without a second thought. But if you really want to reach that level of just a complete failure of a human being, then don't worry, they also released repaints of the exact same characters. This new trilogy has done something I've really appreciated though, by separating the repaints away from the main line with the Netflix series, which is what they've done to avoid polluting the main waves with slight variations of existing figures. The people who hated the battle damage in Siege must have loved this shit. So if you weren't satisfied with your regular Siege prow, you can now get him covered in literal shit. Now, I'm not too knowledgeable about how they've done it in previous lines, but I definitely can tell you about some of the bullshit they've pulled with this new trilogy. The Transformers collecting experience is basically going, hey, that Siege Sideswipe is pretty cool, but don't you also want Sideswipe but needing a shower? Or Sideswipe in black and red? Or Sideswipe but a police car? Or Sideswipe but a police car but a different character? Or Sideswipe but a police car but a different character with shit on him? Or Sideswipe but yellow? Or Sideswipe but blue? Or Sideswipe but in a 2-pack so you have to buy 2 figures just to get the one you actually fucking want? I'm so tired, man. I just want to enjoy the figures I own. Can you please stop making better versions of it? My collection is reduced to a revolving door at this point where no one is ever safe.
I literally got tracks
that's how it
a couple
works.
months ago. Oh, never mind, out he goes. And yes, I know you can have two of the same character, but not all of us are toy reviewers, okay?
You stay the fuck away from me!
So in Transformers toy collecting, you've got redecos, retools, and repaints, all of which are just fancy ways of saying that Hasbro's ripping you off. A redeco is a toy that shares the same mold as another figure, but has an entirely new paint job applied to it, which you'll see on copy-paste characters like the Seekers and Rumble and Frenzy. Yes, that's the correct way, fuck you. A repaint, on the other hand, is a figure that uses the exact same paint, but just in different places. Whereas a retool is when a toy is just an altered Combiner Wars Silverbolt. And yes, they're different enough for me to want them, Mum! An unfortunate amount of my time is spent carefully looking at promo shots of updated figures to work out whether I'm comfortable with having the objectively inferior version. Yeah, man, it's totally just as good. Because now you've got all these different versions of the exact same figure and character, but with just the slightest of changes made to them, which to me is just so unnecessarily confusing and annoying. It's a never-ending cycle, because as soon as I finally track down all the guys from one wave that I want, they just...
And why do you think I don't want to try and collect these? Because Hasbro goes crazy with this, so okay, maybe Hasbro's owning the FNAF license wouldn't be the greatest idea, because they would just they would probably have, like, the waves would be half of the characters, like half characters and then half repaints. I wouldn't be surprised. Just saying.
Just announced another one with the exact same characters that's gonna make me do the whole thing all over again, and it's
that's something about Hasbro. They can somehow get people to buy the same figure again.
At this point, but I definitely can't stop myself. Here's an example of the ridiculously stupid shit I have to do just to get a single figure that I want. This is Siege Mirage. He's cool. Well, just a couple weeks ago, as of this video, Hasbro announced that they're doing a Kingdom 2-pack that contains a new Earth Mode Mirage that looks significantly better than the one I just got at the very reasonable price of $70 on Amazon, which means that if I want him, I'm going to have to buy the entire 2-pack, then sell my Siege Mirage and the Grimlock to cover my costs just to get the one figure. If your hobby doesn't make you question your own existence, then are you even doing it right? I'm on the topic of complaining about meaningless crap that no one cares about. Hasbro loves exclusives almost as much as they love money. These
fair enough.
Never been as bad as they were during the 2020 portion of the War for Cybertron trilogy, Earthrise. Hasbro likes to go a bit nuts when it comes to making deals with stores to only allow them to sell a particular figure, though in doing this they kind of tend to forget that the rest of the world outside of America doesn't have Walmart, so you'd think that they'd release these figures.
Wait, Australia doesn't have a Walmart? That's weird.
Normally everywhere else, right? No? What the fuck is a Walgreens? I don't know what—
Wait, they don't have a Walgreens either? That's weird.
What on earth is going on in the US, where not only is a pharmacy selling toys for some reason, but also apparently does so often enough to warrant them having exclusive ones, but alright. You would assume that exclusives would be reserved for more obscure characters that most people wouldn't—
Yeah, also, first of all, I don't get why a pharmacy is selling toys, but to be honest, not mad. And also, like he was about to say, usually, like, exclusives should be for, like, characters that people wouldn't get mad about, so, well, more specifically, exclusives should be for characters that not a lot of people will get mad about.
Get upset about. But no, let's make fucking Ratchet a store exclusive. Twice. One day we'll be together, my love. And it's been getting especially frustrating when entire teams are impossible to collect because certain members have been made exclusives. Like the Battle Chargers, for example. Runamuck here was available normally in Wave 3 of Earthrise, whereas Runabout is exclusive to the US and just straight up isn't being sold outside of it, unless of course I'm willing to take out a loan from the bank, even though they're just direct—
I really do hate region exclusive things. It's like, especially if it's like toys. It's like, why would you make this toy exclusive to this region? Like, unless it was like a very stupidly specific reason, there shouldn't be a reason why, like, a toy is region exclusive. It's so stupid. It's kind of like with Pokemon Go, where, like, certain regions have certain types of Pokemon. Like, I'm not going to be going to different types of regions just to get a certain type of Pokemon. Come on.
3 paints of each other. An even more frustrating example is the Seekers, a group of 6 Decepticon jets, of which half have been major characters in the Transformers series, where only Starscream has been normally available at retail, with the other 5 all being exclusives, which I'm pretty sure is a war crime. I cannot even begin to describe to you the absolute agony that is trying to find a Siege Skywarp. Because they also did this back in Siege, where instead of letting you just buy the fucking Seeker trio normally, Hasbro instead banished Skywarp to a multi-pack that was only available on Amazon, and is now, as you can imagine, a little bit more than hard to find. When everyone has to pretend that another guy is the guy they actually want, then you've done something wrong. Not to mention, Hasbro's monitoring of quality control was absolutely through the roof with Earthrise.
They get an excuse, though.
Problem with their figures.
They get an excuse.
Alright, so you get a pass this time, guys. At the very
Yeah,
least, it's
they get an
all over
excuse.
now that...
Yeah, about that.
I love how much Hasbro hates us. It's almost kind of painfully hilarious that right in the middle of what seems to be Hasbro's A game, the whole world had to be hit with the discovery that people don't wash their hands, which has caused a lot of the problems people have had with the latest lines. Something to do with plastic shortages. Some people have theorized that Earthrise was cut short because of the pandemic, seeing as it only had 3 waves as opposed to the usual 4, which has resulted in some oddities in the current lines. Like, for example, Hasbro's ever-present quest to only make Generation 1 figures until the end of time.
That's just how they work.
I love G1 though, so I'm not complaining. Kingdom set out to give us a break from the abundance of G1 by giving us a line of updated beloved Beast Wars characters, as well as an equally dominant amount of G1. God damn it. Look, all I'm saying is I didn't
Yeah, it's like, think about it as how like Saban always made Mighty Morphin Mighty Morphin stuff instead of like stuff based off of the other Power Ranger seasons. It's kind of like that, so yeah.
Expect to see a truck and a tank guy in a line called Kingdom. Which does have to make you wonder if Huffer, Warpath, and Inferno were supposed to be a part of Earthrise, since they fit right in with those guys. Then you've got the brand new Studio Series 86 line, which I'm absolutely adoring, bringing us fantastic non-gimmicky figures of the main cast of Transformers the movie. All except for Cyclonus, who was a part of Kingdom, despite perfectly fitting in with the rest of 86. What? One of the biggest wins to come out of this trilogy is Hasbro's newfound dedication to brand unification, meaning their counterpart over in Japan is no longer allowed to make better versions of the same figures that are impossible to get anymore. For whatever reasons, the guys responsible for making Transformers toys over in Japan, Takara Tomy, quite commonly make their own versions of new figures that are exclusive only to Japan, which is as dumb and unnecessary as it sounds. Yeah, it was getting unbelievably tiring buying a new figure and being.
It was also, I can relate to this because like back then when Saban owned it was Neo Saban owned Power Rangers. It was with like Power Ranger Samurai. Like I remember seeing like Japan's better version of the toys. It's like, mommy, I want that. Like seriously, oh my gosh, this is annoying. But now I don't really need to worry about it because like, if I ever have time, or more specifically money, I could maybe get them, and if it were the Zords, I'm just sticking to the mini-plot. Mostly because of size reasons. And when I say size reasons, I mean like space.
Very happy with it, only to look it up and then gaze upon this significantly better version of it that you will never be able to own, unless you have a house to mortgage. But don't worry, they release brand new ones just this year, that are exclusive to Target. In the US. Oh yeah, that Classics Jetfire? You like that? Yeah, well, Takara made a more cartoon-accurate version of it, and it cost you $200. Suffer! This isn't a...
Join us.
Oh, come on.
Aniston Grand Opening Sales Event, March 17th through the 19th. Explore great deals.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, this is going to be a long video.
Nearly every mainline Transformers series has had Takara outdoing Hasbro in every aspect, making it feel really insulting when it's like, no, you can't have this one, but you can have this worse version, you dumb American. Occasionally, there are only minor changes that I suppose you could overlook, but other times it's, oh, come on, what the fuck. The entirety of the Unite Warriors line was basically dedicated to doing Combiner Wars, but better in every single way, from having cartoon-accurate paint jobs and faithful combiner teams to straight-up adding articulation and posability, all while in the process making Hasbro look like a shitty knockoff company. But it's okay, guys, you can...
no wonder Hasbro wanted... no wonder Hasbro did that, brand unification thing.
That's how Hasbro really cares about the quality of their products. I've never understood why this is the case, especially when quite often the changes are so minimal. I'm sure there's an understandable reason that someone in the comments can tell me about, but until then, I guess I'll just be grateful that they don't really do it anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Takara, I swear to God, I will fly over them. And that's why sometimes the only way to get these things is on the...
I am directly below.
Never in my life did I think Facebook would ever be good for anything outside of spreading misinformation. But as of late, I've realized that out of all the options to buy pre-owned toys, none have brought me as much suffering as Marketplace, which truly is a fascinating website. What the fuck? What the fuck? At least several hours of my day is spent browsing this barren wasteland filled with absurdly marked up prices or broken, incomprehensible remains of what I think once used to be a toy, all of which are always just chucked on the floor. Why are they always on the fucking...
Yeah, it's the same thing you can go for eBay. Like, why are they always on the floor? Why not just, like, put them on a desk or a counter and take the... Like, why not put them on a desk or a counter and take the picture? Like, not that hard. Just saying.
Floor. Aside from that though, it is where a brunt of the newfound dents in my bank account have come from. Buying pre-owned can be like Russian roulette, but instead of getting the sweet release of death, you instead just might get the power of the Prime's Dinobots covered in hair. Yes, that actually happened and I'm still not over it. God, I hope it was head hair. Hey, it's like an 80% success rate, I'll take that. Through these Facebook groups, I've also come to realize that the average age for a Transformers collector is a lot more... old person. I'm not at all suggesting there's anything wrong with being into this sort of thing at an older age. Instead of what Twitter might think, you are in fact allowed to have a little bit of joy in your life, but rather instead that I found...
Yeah, fuck Twitter. Like, if you can have your likes, don't just ignore Twitter. Like, here's the thing. Unless your likes, what you like is harmful, or it's hurting someone, or like, it's doing something bad, or unethical, then like what you like. Come on.
Some people who
when will people understand that?
Too much. Like this American toy group my friend showed me.
Because of course it's American.
Buy me Transformers toys, she'll just get it wrong. When you play with Transformers and your girlfriend can't see your enjoyment because she's watching TikTok, mine does the same. My wife would say nothing and make me a sandwich because...
Oh.
But of course, you can't talk about an aftermarket for Transformers toys without bringing up
eBay. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
The fuck is going on with this site?
It's eBay. What do you expect?
Been pretty good deals, but for the most part, people on this site just go absolutely insane with their pricing, and it really makes me wonder if people could actually afford this stuff to warrant them to keep doing it.
Jeez.
Anyway, fuck eBay, that's where I was going with this. In Australia,
come on, eBay isn't that bad. I got this, like, I got one of those, like, FNAF forehead keychains, the Funtime Foxy one, so got a pretty good deal.
That's pretty much the best options we have to turn to, unless you want to resort to Gumtree. You know, not like any proper online retailers are willing to give us a hand. Hasbro Pulse, where fans come first. Unless you don't live in the US or UK, in which case, go fuck yourself.
That's stupid. Why is it... That's weird. Hasbro Pulse should be available everywhere.
It's even more fun for non-official products. Wow, this third-party figure looks cool. Okay, never mind. I suppose it could be worse. That could be a Star Wars collector.
Yeah, like I mentioned, but I don't know, I think I mentioned it somewhere in this video. That is, well, now an hour long, but yeah, so yeah, being a Star Wars collector, or actually, here's another example, I think it was called Warhammer 4K. Yeah, Warhammer, I think. Yeah, those people, like, put out a daily loan just to collect something.
As someone who is probably the only person on Earth not to transform their Transformers entirely because I am too scared to break them, it's always really comforting to know that for every figure I can't work out how to transform, there's a review out there explaining to me how to do it. The toy review scene on YouTube is really what's been helping keep this whole thing fun for me. Seeing other people sharing my
Yeah, I can agree with this, especially with Super Sentai, so... yeah.
Excitement for new releases and grievances with the prices, and sometimes even convincing me to add even more things onto my wish list because God knows it isn't large enough already, you bastards. Although I can stop whenever I want. I mean, Sound Blaster? That's just a black and red sound wave. Why the hell would I want that? This video is a cry for help. Please someone help me. I can't stop buying them. Please save my bank account.
Okay, so God. So yeah, that was my reaction of 3 Diamonbolt videos. It's 12:29 now. This video is an hour long. There's definitely going to be some editing, so hopefully I can shorten it. Hopefully. But yeah. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you guys subscribe and like for more, and I'll see you all guys later. Peace out, home guards, and goodbye.